With the financial troubles of the states and the increase of IFTA audits, are you sure that your ELD is IFTA and IRP compliant? We're going to talk about some 3 things that I found interesting, as well as give you some tools to make sure you can protect yourself. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell button so you can get alerts. Hi, I'm Bill Hood with the Velocity Group and the Trucking MBA. And if you thought your ELD was IFTA compliant because your ELD company is offering an IFTA package, then you'd be mistaken, just like I was. What I'm going to do is we're going to talk a little bit today about 3 of the standout things that came out as I was doing some research with the IRP and the IFTA organizations that set all the rules and standards on this. And then also going to give you some tools that you can use to make sure that you are compliant. So let's get started with the first thing that kind of stood out. We have the 3 columns here that we're going to take a look at. The first is effectively talking about what the topic is. The second column is what is required for the ELD, being ELD compliant. And the third is what is required to be compliant under the IFTA and IRP programs. So the first thing is the frequency of GPS readings, date and timestamps, and the distance recording requirements. Now for an ELD, they're only required to record every 60 minutes, change of duty status, and if the engine is going on and off, and 1 mile of on duty, and 10 miles when off duty. So those are the ELD requirements. For the IFTA and IRP, the date and time of each GPS or other system reading at intervals, this is the one you gotta love, at intervals sufficient to validate the total distance traveled in each jurisdiction. Now this is all going to be carrier dependent here, and 15 minutes may work well for what you're doing if you've got some long line haul. If you're doing a lot of short drop and hook and short distance stuff, 15 minutes may not be enough. But the requirements for an ELD under the FMCSA of recording every hour will not meet the requirements for the IFTA. So what you need to do is you need to make sure with your ELD provider that you are getting updates more frequently than no more than 15 minutes. If you can get them every couple to 5 minutes, that is going to make sure that you are 100% compliant. But if you're looking at just meeting the ELD requirements that the FMCSA put out there, you're definitely not going to be IFTA and IRP compliant. So the next one is calculating the distance between each GPS or other system reading. Now, as far as the ELD is concerned from the FMCSA, that's not something that's required. But when you're talking about the IFTA and the IRP, it is something that is required. So if you are not able to get the reports and you're not able to see what the distance is between each of those readings, then what you will find out from there is that you are not IFTA compliant. And one of the things you want to find out for, it may not be a report that you can run, that you have to have your ELD company run, but you want to find out if they can get you that information or if they can prove that it actually does that with for an IRP or IFTA audit. So this is one that I thought was interesting. Now, it's always been a hot topic talking about certification. So with the ELD is the ELD providers have to self-certify with the FMCSA that their devices are actually compliant with the regulations. The devices for IFTA and IRP requirements, there is no certification of any devices. They do not provide any level of certification whatsoever. So I have seen a couple companies out there that say that they are certified for IFTA. Usually they don't talk about IRP because that falls along usually with the IFTA miles, but they say they're certified. Now, if they're saying that, you know that's marketing hype and marketing gimmick because there is no certification per the IRP groups and the IFTA group that pulls all this together. So the organizations that actually come up with the rules and guidelines for the IFTA and IRP for each of the states to follow have actually come out with a pretty good guide that I took. I got a lot of these comments from, and what I've done is if you go down to the description, you go down, there's a link in the description section, and it'll be a link to this guide where you can go ahead and download it and take a look at that. Now, what you want to do is you want to take that information and you want to go to your ELD provider and you want to ask specific questions from what you have in there to make sure that they are compliant and that you are going to be compliant if you get audited, and you're not going to be run into fines and penalties because they come back and they recalculate things, and you find yourself in problems when you think you were 100% compliant from that point. Now, the other thing is we're going to be compiling a list of the ELD companies and the ones that are compliant. So if you do a favor, there's also a section there for the download where you can actually shoot off an email. If you would also go to that, and if you do your own research and you find out about your company and you get information, go ahead and send that information off from that link there, or you can go ahead and do info@velocitygroup.com. That email will be down the link, and let us know, because we'll use that information so as a group we can all come together and get the best information out there and make sure people are getting ELDs that are going to meet their requirements, both for the FMCSA requirements, the IFTA, and the IRP requirements.